Hello, and here we go. Thank you for watching. I'm Neris, and this is a walkthrough for Mythic Loom'ithar. Alright, the cadence of the encounter changes quite a bit as you move up to Mythic. You are constantly dealing with mechanics and no longer have stretches of downtime. Two main changes. First, there are now 2 tangle walls. Each tank must hit a tangle with the piercing strand or you will wipe. We always start just past our triangle marker, and it's important that the first tank breaks the inner tangle while the second tank breaks the outer tangle. Otherwise, you run the risk of running out of space during this nasty overlap. Ideally, the first tangle is broken and range clump up underneath Loom'ithar, bait the primal spellstorm, and then move to the safe space next to the outer tangle. While this is all happening, 3 players will have been targeted with Infusion Tether. When the outer tangle is finally broken, run straight to the back of the room and try to break all 3 tethers within a few yards of each other. Next, you repeat the same actions. Tanks break the inner and outer tangle, range bait the swirlies, and then break the tethers on the outer edge. After the second round of tangles, you escape the over-infusion burst by standing on the outside edge, just like in Heroic. It is paramount that when you have the tether debuff to use a defensive when it reaches about 8 stacks. The damage ramp is severe and healers will need to pay attention to who has tethers. The web pools from the tethers start small and grow, so if you drop all the pools close together, you take up significantly less space on the outer edge, which is extremely important for the second phase. If someone breaks their tether on top of an existing puddle, they will be stunned. Take advantage of Life Grip and Rescue to pull them out of the web pools in this case. Alright, the second mythic change is you must deal with 4 pylons around the room, correlating with our world markers. The mechanic itself is simple enough. One person soaks the beam until about 9 stacks and steps aside for person 2 to soak the rest of the beam. The real challenge is twofold. The beam soak happens during the tangles, so you must be in the correct position. Next, since it takes 2 people to soak the beam and up to 3 can be active at a time, you need 2 groups of 8 people to soak. Yes, that's basically your entire raid. After some trial and error, we came to the following setup. Since we spend most of phase 1 between green and yellow, we want melee to be the first soaks there as it puts them closer to the tangles once soaking duty is finished. Healers are generally pretty good at keeping themselves alive, so have healers and more durable range like warlocks be the second soak in the team. If you don't have enough range to match this setup, use classes like rogues or feral druids who aren't great at target switching to be the second soak in the pair and focus boss. Lastly, do not assign your tanks, they have enough to do, and the 2 remaining players' names should be in the backup spot. With liquidWaveEnd, it will automatically assign them if a player who should be soaking is dead. One more thing, it can be tempting to use defensives while soaking the beam, but remember you must use your defensive if you get targeted with a tether. Use minor defensives like Renewing Blaze or Dark Pact for the beam, and major defensives for the tether. Now that our soak teams are set up, you always alternate teams for every round of pylons. The very first pylon activation will only have 1 beam. If that happens to be Diamond, for example, only those 2 people are soaking for Team 1. The next pylons are Team 2 with 2 activations, and only Team 2 soaks. The liquidWaveEnd pack will give you an on-screen reminder when it is your team's turn to soak, even if your pylon is not active. So, if your pylon is dormant, just keep blasting. The third pylon activation will have 3 beams to soak, and only Team 1 soaks. Phase 1 repeats in its entirety until you reach 50% and enter Phase 2. Alright, entering Phase 2 will remove all tangles, so if you are at about 53%, you can make the call to push the boss and ignore the tangles. The most important part of Phase 2 is positioning. The cadence is identical to Heroic. Half the group soaks the writhing wave, and if one person doesn't make it, it's not the end of the world. You do, however, need a minimum of 5 players to soak the frontal, or Loom'ithar will shield himself, which is probably a wipe. Next, you must loosely spread during the Arcane Outrage pushback. Overlapping with multiple players will almost certainly result in deaths, and managing the spread is the key to surviving Phase 2. After soaking a writhing wave, range should move away from melee and pre-spread. It might seem like the frontal is the scary mechanic, but the damage from the pushback is deceptively high. Have a plan for each healer to use 1 major cooldown during every frontal and pushback combo. Also, the tanks must use very controlled movement to maximize the amount of space you have while burning Loom'ithar. The first frontal can be done without moving the boss from the center, which saves a ton of space. Next, pull Loom'ithar slightly towards where you have webs against the wall, in our case behind Star. After that, you just slowly work your way around the expanding arcane goo and take advantage of the clean, web-free edge. For the sake of simplicity, we always have the tank point the frontal at the wall. Loom'ithar takes 33% more damage during phase 2, so it might seem like you would want to hold Bloodlust for this phase. However, I would recommend using Bloodlust to burn phase 1 and exit it as quickly as possible. Not only will this mean you have less webs on the edge, and thus more space in phase 2, the chance of random deaths is higher in phase 1 if someone is caught without a defensive. Lastly, we assign our groups such that groups 1 and 2 are first, and 3 and 4 are second. This is reflected in our raid note, which I will leave in the description below. If your guild prefers odds and evens, just change the groups at the top of the note. Even though I firmly believe the 1, 2, and 3, 4 split is superior and makes it easier to heal. Can I get a comment if you're odds and evens gang? Alright, joking aside. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've made it this far, please hit the like button if you have found this video helpful. Our guild just killed ForgeWeaver Raz, so stay tuned for another detailed breakdown soon. Congrats on killing Mythic Loom'ithar, thanks again for watching, and subscribe so we can chat again soon.